and I am Canvas and Conversation. I am so glad that you joined us today. We're going to do the Miami sunset painting today, and you can follow along step by step. Hopefully you have picked up your kit, or you have your kit available, or maybe you have your own paint and you just want to do this image, and that's great. So in your kit though, you should have some instructions on how to do it and a link to the YouTube video. You should also have your paint, a couple brushes, a paint palette. I just use a plain paper plate to mix your colors if you need them, or you can work directly out of the little paint cups. A cup of water to rinse our brushes with, and some paper towels to dry our brushes up with when we're done, and in between moving colors. So for those of you who have not done this before, I am Canvas and Conversation. I am a mobile paint party in Evansville, and I get to travel around the tri-state and do parties in home or at your business or with your club or organization at, like I said, at your location. I am mobile, so I get to travel around, and it's great. Doing the kits is a way for us to socially distance and to keep painting at the same time, because I miss coming to parties with you guys and I miss being there with you, but right now this is how we have to do it. So we're going to get started. It is acrylic paint, so it will come off your hands and out of your hair, but if you get it on your clothes, you might be living with it, so you might want to have on an old t-shirt or an apron or something like that. It will wash off your hands, like I said, with a little soap and water. And like I said, we're just going to walk you through this. I'm sorry my light's being a little funky today and flickering on and off, but we'll just work through it. So I'm going to start with my biggest brush, and I'm going to start with a little bit of white paint. I don't usually mix one specific color, and especially since how we're doing a sunset. And sunsets flow from one thing to the other, and they're ever changing. So I'm not mixing one specific color. And just a word of caution, there's no way you can do this painting twice the same way. So everyone's painting is going to be different. Yours is going to look different from mine. Mine's going to look different from the original. It's just the nature of it. And it's how you're feeling that day, whether you've had a bad day and you have a stormy kind of sunset, or a darker sunset, or you have a real light day and maybe it's just really, really bright. It really is part of your personality, and make this painting your own. So I'm going to start with a lot of white paint and a little bit of yellow on my brush, and I'm going to let my brush mix this paint. And I'm going to start towards the bottom here, and I'm going to leave about an inch or so at the bottom. And I accidentally picked up some red, so I've already got some pink in there. And I want this to be pretty light. So a lot of white and a little yellow. And if you pick up an extra color, that's okay. I'm going to try really hard not to stand in front of the canvas. And I'm going to do maybe 2 to 3 inches of this really light pale yellow. And then I'm going to pick up, well, again, maybe a little white and pink. I was trying to just pick up some white. But sometimes your canvas dictates, or your paint palette dictates what you're going to do. And then I'm going to just pick up some white here. The reason why I want to kind of create a barrier between the yellow, and we're going to go to the blue next, because yellow and blue make green, and you don't want a green sky. Here in the Midwest, we know green skies mean tornadoes, and we don't want that. So I have a lot of whites. I went from white and yellow, pale yellow, and I've worked my way up. I accidentally picked up a little bit of pink as I was coming up, and that's okay, because like I said, everybody's is going to be different. And then just a lot of white. And then I'm going to pick up a little bit of blue with my white, and we're going to create this real pale blue as we come up. And you'll see that it's more to the right side of your canvas is this pale blue. And I'm really going to blend my brush, and I'm not worried about it getting too muddy because we're using a lot of white and a lot of pastel kind of colors. I wanted this painting to be kind of bright and summery. We're coming to the end of summer here. I didn't get to go on my beach vacation this year. I'm a little bummed about that. But I have been looking at a lot of photos. This photo is from Miami. So I'm just going to create, again, some very pale blue, pale white, and then I'm going to pick up a little bit of red. And while we're doing these really pastel colors, a little bit goes a long way, so a little bit of red will go a long way. The white is what we're going to use probably the most of. And what I'm doing is I'm just laying down this base sky. So our sky is going to be, and even when my red and my blues mix, we're going to get that kind of pale purple in here. And I'm going to encourage you to do your edges as you do this, whatever color you have on your brush. This painting is a lot of just brush work and a lot of blending. Sunsets, you don't want your sunset to be like a rainbow with solid lines. You just really want it to blend together, and you do that by using a lot of white. As I come over to this side, I'm going to actually add a little red and a little blue together to make a purple, and I'm going to mix that on my palette, so it's kind of this gray purple color, because blue and red make purple, right? And I want this to be a little darker on this side over here. And you'll notice again, I'm doing my edges as I come to them, trying not to forget them, because you will kick yourself if you forget to paint that edge, and a couple weeks down the road you're going to notice it, or somebody in your house or your dorm is going to notice it and they're going to be like, why didn't you paint that edge? Or they're going to be, hey, you missed a spot. My own mother did that to me one day. She came up to me and she said, hey, you missed a spot. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I had a painting up on my mantle, and sure enough, I missed a spot on the edge, and she called me out for it. So just know that your family will call you out. And so I'm using a lot of white. I'm creating this base kind of sunset here. And so far, I've not used a whole lot of my other colors. So if it looks like there's not a whole lot of colors in your paint in your paint cups, that's okay, because it doesn't take a lot of these colors. It takes a lot of white. So I'm just kind of covering that. So now I've got the start of my sunset, and I want to go in now and add my clouds. So you'll notice I haven't rinsed my brush in between it. I'm just really working until I run out of paint, and then I pick up more paint from my palette, and I want to smooth it out. I don't want to have big globs of paint, and that really helps me blend it together, and the white helps blend it too. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up more of a straight color. I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange, and I have very little paint on my brush, very teeny tiny tip, and I even might brush that off a little bit so it's just barely there, and I mixed it with a little, accidentally picked up a little bit of blue. So if your colors do get muddy, just rinse your brush out, dry it up on your paper towel, and move on. I'm going to use a little bit of this orange, and I'm going to use kind of a circular motion, and that's going to give me some fluffier clouds up in here, and it'll give me a little bit of variation. So we're just going to work a little bit between some yellows and some whites. If you get a little too much, you can always kind of blend it back out. But I'm going to use kind of this downward scrubby or upward scrubby circular motion. Depends on how you want your clouds. If you want fluffy kind of clouds, your brush stroke's what's going to create that. If you want more stripe type clouds, you can just use whatever color is on your brush and let it pull those clouds out. Then I want some more pink clouds, so I'm going to pick up a little bit of red and a little bit of white together. Again, very little paint, and I'm going to let my brush mix those colors. See, that was a lot of red. So I'm really going to come back and really kind of blend this out around so that my red is not overpowering. And I can even come back with a tiny bit of blue in there. Again, very, very tiny bit. And add that blue in there, that'll give me more of that purple color. Just a word to the wise, purple and yellow or purple and orange will give you kind of a dirty color, so it may look like your colors get muddy. But the blue and the red really work well. Red and yellow, of course, make orange. So we're just going to create some clouds here and across the board. Maybe a little bit of that pink down in here as well. And I want a little bit more purple. My original is a little bit more purple, and I just painted the original about 20 minutes ago. So I want a little bit more of that purple or blue in here. So whatever color combinations you come up with, this one actually turned out a little bit of a teal color because I had some yellow and orange on my brush when I picked up the blue. I think that's a very pretty color in this. I hope the colors are picking up with my light that's going crazy. So I hope you guys are having a good start to the semester. And once I get my clouds, and you can work on your clouds however long you like. You're just, you know, again, your clouds are yours to create. And we could do a little more blue in here, maybe. A little more red. I want it to be a little more purple. If you need to use your palette and mix a color so that it's more blue and red and purple than one straight color, by all means do that. That's why your palette's there. And remember, it's just paint, so there is no real mistakes with this. You can always dry it up with a hairdryer and paint over it if you need to. Or you can just keep working it, but again, if it gets really muddy or something, just kind of clean your brush and start over. Now that I've got some clouds in here, I'm going to do a little more dark clouds over here. I'm going to kind of work my clouds back and forth too, because I want to have some of these variations in color that's on my brush down here as well. And that helps kind of blend and make our sky. Now, as I'm doing this, you'll notice I'm kind of at an angle, and I'm very lightly touching the canvas. I'm not even really, I'm just kind of whatever's on my brush, and just very lightly touching my canvas, and really cleaning out my brush to some extent, and adding those in here. And you'll notice how my clouds kind of go at an angle, because we're going to go at an angle with our trees as well. So we want to make sure our clouds are along with that. And you can kind of smooth out some. If you got too many fluffy clouds, you can smooth it out. Again, sunsets are so subjective that you can kind of create whatever you want or whatever you're feeling with that. And then, once I get my clouds set, and I think that's good, I might add a little extra blue over here. I like blue. Those of you who have painted with me before, you know that I like blue. Blue is my favorite color. Most of my paintings tend to be blue or have some blue in them. So I'm just going to create this here. Add some more down here. Maybe fluff these up a little. However you want your sky to be. So this is a lot of sky and a little bit of palm trees. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this big brush in my cup of water, and I'm going to, now I have my medium-sized brush, and I got a lot of black paint here, so I'm going to just pick up some black paint. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my canvas upside down. If you're working on a table, you may not need to do this. If you're working on an easel, and there's a reason I do this. I do it so I can do this bottom edge. Again, I paint your edges. It just makes your painting feel a whole lot more finished in the long run. You don't need to come back and touch it up. And you notice we left this little inch of white paint here. So I'm going to paint, or inch of white canvas. We're going to fill that in. And it doesn't have to be a straight line. In fact, it's probably going to be better if it's a little bumpy and not quite a straight line. And we're going to fill this in with our black paint. And you can use your big brush for this. Just be sure that you, for this part of it, just be sure that you really clean your brush out. Scrub it on the bottom of your cup of water, dry it up on your paper towel. So just going to fill that in. Easy part, right? This is easy. And then I'm going to kind of brush off on the side of my palette my paint so there's very little paint left. And just barely lightly touch the canvas with some blacks through here. What we're doing is we're creating that horizon line, but you know, when you look out at the horizon, maybe you're looking towards the beach, things get a little fuzzier, a little grayer. We're kind of creating that. I'm going to flip it right side up. You'll notice I've got a little bit of trees or shrubs. Again, very little paint on my brush. I'm just going to kind of dot those in here using the end of my brush. There's no, you can make them look like trees or bushes. They're just really to break that up. Some shrubs. They don't even have to really be solid. A little bit coming through there. So you don't want it to be on a grid. Again, random works best here. And then I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to make my tree trunks. I'm really going to load up my brush because tree trunks scare people. And you cannot make tree trunks smaller. You can make them bigger. So my word of advice with tree trunks is to start small. You can always make them wider, but you cannot make them any smaller. So we have these flat brushes. They're not round brushes. They're what they call a flat brush. And I'm going to have you turn it to where it's vertical, not horizontal. So it's a vertical. You're going to load your brush up with some paint. And I'm going to start and work my way from right to left so that it goes down at an angle, kind of the way my clouds do. So I know where my biggest tree is going to be. My biggest tree, I'm just going to start over here. And I'm going to take a deep breath, right? And you're just going to draw a line down. And again, see, mine's not straight. That's okay. And as we come down, I'm going to space them out. I'm just going to rough these in. There's my dogs barking. They heard the mailman. And you'll notice how I'm going down at this angle. As they get a little further down here, they might get a little closer together and maybe a little thinner as well. I accidentally picked up some white paint there. So if you need to switch to your baby brush to get a really thin line, you can do so. So mine are getting a little smaller as you come down here. They don't have to be straight either. They can be at an angle. They can angle this way, angle that way. It's hard for me to tell because I'm at the side which way they really are until I get straight in front of it. And then I'm going to come back, and if there's any areas that kind of filled out, I'm going to fill those back in, and I'm going to make these bigger ones a little more substantial, make them a little bigger, and maybe flare at the bottom a little bit so they have more of a substantial trunk. Again, you can't go any smaller, but you can go a little bit bigger. And remember to breathe. Right. So I said take a deep breath because I'm holding my breath. So I know it's kind of nerve-wracking because once you put this black on here, you're not coming back from it. Unless you paint the whole canvas over. So we just adjust and adapt to what we have. Again, I'm making these flare out just a little. My trunks are not perfectly straight. They're not perfect sticks. I'm going to make this one over here just a little bit bigger, a little bit wider. So maybe a brush width, if you turn it the other way, a little bit wider on this side. On this one, of course, my canvas was bigger. I needed to add an extra tree. So if you feel like you need to add a tree in somewhere, you can certainly do that. Now I am going to start on this end. And maybe I'm going to show you how to do palm trees. Palm trees are really easy, and I call them fireworks. And I'll start right here in the middle so you can see it pretty easy. I'm going to start at the top, and it's just kind of a flip out in the direction that your leaf is going for palm leaves. And you'll notice your brush stroke kind of creates that. You're leaving it, you're kind of flipping it as you're doing it. Now as we get to the bigger ones, of course we need to fill those in. So you can come off of those real lightly, just so that your brush is kind of coming up off of. But you're going in the direction that your leaf should go. So you're making like a feather. So a lot of people tend to do these and they don't follow the direction that the leaf should go when they do their feathering. So you kind of got to follow that direction. And again, I'm just barely touching the canvas. I'm just flipping it out. And look at it. I mean, don't just be like, oh, fireworks and I'm done. I mean, look at what you're doing. Look at your painting. They need to be longer. Now I did this one in the middle so you could see. I hope I'm not standing in front of it. Just exactly how I did that. And again, you're going in the direction, and I'm just letting my brush stroke create those palm leaves. So now I'm going to fill in the rest of them, and I'm actually going to start over here and do that same thing with some palm leaves. But the little ones, your brush stroke itself, again, flip it over the edge. If you come to an edge, it just makes it feel finished. Your painting doesn't stop just because it comes off the horizon. And these littler ones, they're going to fill in. And that's going to be your palm leaf. The other thing that I see with palm leaves is some people don't go big enough. So it's okay. They're going to overlap. And I mean, when you look at a tree, it doesn't say, oh, there's another tree there, I'm not going to grow there. It just grows. So these are going to overlap as you do them. And that's why I'm starting at this side, because your painting will show that overlap even in your brush strokes. And they get a little bigger as they come up, right? So start with some fireworks. And I know we did silhouettes the last time, but this is a little different. And I saw this image this morning, and I thought, I really want to paint that. So here we are. And again, make them big. Make them, see how I got to this one? I kind of need to fill in. There's another one right here. So as your tree trunks get bigger, your palm leaves get a little bigger. We're going to fill in. And we're just letting them lay on top of each other. That's okay. They're not going to be all the same either. So I start with some fireworks, then I kind of fill in around them, feather those out, especially on the bigger ones. Again, go in the direction of your leaves, make a feather. You do have leaves that come down too. And then this is my big one here. And again, my big one's going to probably come off the canvas. That's okay. Just keep flipping that like it comes off the canvas. If it wraps around, wrap it around there. It'll make your canvas feel more finished. And you'll notice that I've left some images, some of the background peeking through too. So you want to leave some peeking through. Got to be able to see that sunset through the trees. And then you can just, if you need to add a little more down here, you can add a little more, clean that up. And that's our sunset. That's our Miami sunset in Indiana, right? So the last thing I'm going to have you do is you can sign your work with your baby brush and a little bit of paint, or once it's dry, you can use a Sharpie marker on it. Has to be dry in order to use the Sharpie, and just kind of sign it up, because everybody wants to know who did that and be proud of it, because this is a fun little painting that you can have and look and say, you know, when it gets snowy and dreary here, you can look at your Miami sunset and be like, oh, the beach, and just really enjoy that sunset and enjoy your day. Thank you so much for painting with me today and watching the video. Again, the instructions are on your instruction sheet. The YouTube video link is on there as well. And I hope you enjoyed this fun little painting.